Welcome to your own backyard. This is the 80th Street Park, and we're here today to show you that the ecosystems we talked about in class are not just in the forests of different countries, but you have it here in your own backyard.
Let's take a look at what an ecosystem actually is. An ecosystem is all the living and non-living elements in a particular place. So an example of an ecosystem would be the coral reef, which is found, as you know, in the ocean. The coral reef is a very diverse ecosystem containing many different animals and plants, as well as rocks and water as far as non-living organisms. Now, all living things in an ecosystem are adapted to their environment. Adaptation, or adapted, means that they have certain characteristics about them that help them survive. So in the case of this, which I don't know if you can actually see it because it's very well adapted to an environment, is a rabbit. The rabbit, or snow hare in this case, is white. And since it stays in the snow, it's very well adapted and hard to see, meaning it's hard for predators to find it, to eat it. You also have the camel in the desert, which is capable of storing large amounts of water in its tissue in order to survive the dry, rainless climate. Now, groups of animals and plants that are adapted to similar conditions form a community. So all the plants and animals that are found in the desert create a community in that area.
As you can see here, we have a number of birds who are doing their best to keep themselves warm. Now, if you remember, we talked about adaptations. Now, what did we say an adaptation was? Exactly. An adaptation is a way that an animal can fit into its environment in order to survive. So taking a look at all these birds out here, what I want you guys to do is to think which ones would survive very well in this environment, the winter environment, and which ones wouldn't. Which ones are most likely to be eaten? You're absolutely correct. The white birds are the ones that are going to survive. They blend in, whereas the darker colored ones stand out. So a predator would have the ability to run up and catch it because they can see it. So that is an example of adaptations and how animals can adapt to their environment.
That's just how they do. They go out for air. See?
I'm Mr. McBell. For those of you that don't know me, I'm actually the teacher across the hall that's always screaming to his students to pay attention. But today we're going to talk about the changes in the ecosystem. As you guys know, the ecosystem consists of all the non-living and the living elements around us. So that means there's a lot of different elements that make up an ecosystem. What happens when all of these elements are balanced in the ecosystem? Our ecosystem is stable, which is the most beneficial for us and the non-living things as well. These elements, this means that there's a natural balance between those that are eaten and those that are not eaten. Okay. For example, if you're having a party on Saturday and you have 75 people coming over to enjoy your festivities with you, you need to make sure you have enough food for the 75 people to come. But now, for example, you don't have enough food for the 75 of your guests that are coming over to the party. What happens? What's going to happen is there's not going to be stability because there's going to be more people than there is food. So something is going to have to change. Another example is when the factors change in the ecosystem, the stability is also altered as well. One example that I like to use, and Ms. Russo likes to use as well, is trees in the rainforest. The reason why is because us humans like to go into the rainforest and cut down these trees to be able to use them for paper, wood, houses, and so on. But these trees are very important to other animals and other living elements in the rainforest. For example, the wild pig uses these trees for shelter and food. So what happens when these trees disappear? No trees equals no trees. The wild pig is also going to decrease its population size. The reason why is because the wild pig uses the trees as a form of shelter and food, like we said before. So if there isn't any food or any shelter, it's easily open to the prey that are actually chasing it to kill it as well. And when the pigs disappear, another species that you guys might not ever even think that will disappear also, frogs disappears as well. And the reason why is because the pigs and the frogs work hand in hand. What the pigs do in the mud, as we all know, is they dig holes in the mud. With their feet, with their mouth, with their noses, they actually wallow in the mud. And this wallowing that has occurred after, frogs use it to be able to, as you guys can see, the frog also disappears as well. And the reason why is because the holes that are formed by the pigs are used for the frogs use them to breed their eggs as well. And the reason why is because these holes are underneath the ground, so they're able to protect their seeds from anybody who's actually running in the rainforest that can step on them and actually kill them before they actually fertilize and develop into an embryo. So a change in one factor affects all the living and non-living elements in a system. As we can see, the one factor that was changed in this actual case was the disappearance of the tree, and the living things that disappeared were the pigs, and the non-living were the frogs using the holes as well. We spoke about the change in one factor affecting all the living and non-living elements. However, the beauty of our ecosystem is that it has the ability to gradually return to their original condition, which is very important. All right, even though we go in there, we cut down the trees, the ecosystem and the rainforest in this situation has the ability to regrow these trees, and then when the regrowing of the trees occur, the wild pig re-shows up because his niche, which we're going to speak about later on, is there as well, and the frogs are able to use the holes as well for the breeding. Here's an example of the Yellowstone National Park, which in 1988, a lot of you guys weren't born, that's when I was running around in my diapers. It was a severe fire that happened that destroyed nearly 1/3 of the park. As you guys can see, the firefighters are actually working endless hours trying to put it away. However, with time, as you guys can see, 1 year later, the park started to redevelop, the flowers started to regrow, the trees are starting to grow some flowers, and the park is almost back to its normal original conditions. This occurring is very important, and we call it succession. Succession is the stability of the ecosystem actually occurring again. When something occurs to it, harmful, and then it is able to regrow. We'll be able to show you guys some live pictures that we took at the park as well. Welcome, as you can see, we're standing in the 80th Street ecosystem, surrounded by many trees, leaves, and branches. We have squirrels jumping up and down the trees. Also, we have habitats. We have grass, and somewhat kind of grass that was supposed to be here, but it's not here anymore. This is an example of succession occurring. Succession is when this dirt turns back into that grass, which was originally what it was here.